law enforcement to investigate what you are alleging is...
If I was giving a speech to 45,000 people, and someone in the back of the room threw a pie or yelled out an insult, would I spend the next 2 hours responding to that? No, I would get back.
This is not that
I would
situation.
get back.
This is not that situation.
I would get back. Well, why don't you do? What you want to do the briefing? I'm going to have to ask that we follow some rules here. And one of those is going to be U.S. questions. I do the answers. That seem reasonable?
I'd love to get an answer.
That would be reasonable, right? You do the questions. That would be reasonable. You do the questions. I do the answers, and this jackass interrupts me. How about that as the rule of the game?
I love it. Do it again. Do it again. I want to hear it again. I want more.
Wow.
I want more.
1027, Jack Riccardi on News Talk 550 KTSA. Our gang of four today is Sylvia Rincon, ace reporter from Fox San Antonio, alum of KTSA News. She did her training here at KTSA and then went out for the big TV bucks.
Learned everything here.
Yes.
Definitely.
Nico Lahood, who's an attorney and was Susan Reed's opponent last year, and Lyle Larson, who has been on city council, county commissioners, is now in the state legislature, but don't hold that against him.
Please.
Let me bring up one other thing about the Anthony Weiner story that I find interesting. And Sylvia, I have to say this, even though you're a reporter and I respect you. Watching the reporters go after this guy with such tenacity, asking the same question over and over, determined to get an answer, determined to expose that he is not answering said question. I would love to see that kind of tenacity on, shall we say, the debt, or candidates running for president, or how did they suddenly wake up and remember their journalism degrees on this story?
This guy's easy picking.
Well, okay,
You know what I mean?
low-hanging fruit, right?
Yeah, for
so
sure.
to speak.
And so
fruit of the loom.
He's already.
But
nice
it would be nice if they had that attitude when a president holds a news conference or a candidate makes a promise.
I agree, absolutely. It does take though this this attitude, this gumption, this flag that waves. This guy has all the flags. Come in and get me. I mean, he definitely thinks he doesn't, but he's he is a target.
Okay, so there's blood in the water here because we know he's lying.
Sure, yeah, and then his reaction is good TV. It's entertaining, and you know the more that you press, the crazier you're going to get. So
but that's not a great commentary on your profession.
No, I'm not. But I'm being honest. I am the most.
We only do our job when it's really fun and entertaining.
Well, no, I was about to. Let me finish.
Okay.
So you have this one individual, right, who's pretty much already got himself set up here for target,
right.
And so the press is going to go after that because they've already sniffed. Fear is in the air, right. So they are going to attack. Now, when it comes to like Edwards, maybe, or Obama, or these other situations, there is a decor. There's an etiquette. He does not have those privileges yet. And it's a funny thing because I remember studying like old school stuff with the Kennedy era, and even all the way up to Carter and Reagan. There was always this this respect or this line you don't cross, and it has faded over the years, but it still exists. And even in local and municipal, small municipalities where you have this relationship between journalist and elected official or authority, you have to play, a finesse.
You don't want to burn your bridges.
It's a tango.
You don't want to burn your bridges.
And you're not sure who you're dancing with. Now, this guy, we've danced with this guy before. We've danced with him lots of times. We know exactly how he's going to react.
I get that you got to maintain a relationship because you're going to be coming back for more questions and more stories.
And it didn't start like this at first.
But I will say, and I get that. I was a reporter. I remember that. But I have to say, I would like to see more of this. Lyle, you and I are old enough to remember guys like Sam Donaldson. Every time Sam Donaldson would stand up at any news conference of any president, you knew it was about to be a bludgeoning, right?
Yeah,
this guy had it in for you. And you weren't going to get away with not answering his question.
But
a lot of them are like stenographers. They throw a question out there, they scribble down whatever you say.
And that is unfortunate because it is apathetic on the journalism side of things. But most recently, there was that controversial, if you will, interview by I think Houston reporter who had a one-on-one with Obama. Right. And remember the heat storm he got for, oh my goodness.
He was doing a good job.
He was doing a great job. More people should do that.
You would say,
I
though,
fantasize in my head that if I ever got a chance to really have a one-on-one with an Obama...
Is that really your fantasy?
I'm a bit of a
One
geek
of
about
them.
these things.
All right.
It's one of them, yes. But there's other narrative officials who I wish I could just really go in there and, like, ask tough questions. You know, but you got to get there, you know? You got to get that there. You have to have the reputation and the credibility to do it.
Right.
And so there's this upper echelon...
Would you say, though, that the Houston Reporter, I think it was Houston, right?
I believe it's Houston.
Okay, he could do that because he's never
never
going
gonna see him
he's never
again.
going to see the president
And
again.
if he does, you know, it'll go one way or the other, and he'll work his way up to the upper echelons of getting into that tier. But yeah, he had the cojones to be able to do it because he didn't have to answer the next
Could we
day.
not say cojones in this case?
Yeah, I kind of took that when I heard that right now as maybe this guy Weiner had ticked off these reporters years ago.
Probably.
You know, and they're like, okay, guy,
Bad blood.
you know, when it comes to you,
Right.
you're gonna, you know, you sowed your bad seed, you're gonna reap a bad harvest,
I
and
thought
now
that
it's
too.
like now you're a hypocrite. That's the way I kind of took it. They wanted to prove a point with him.
You
From the
should-
standpoint
possible.
of antagonism from the press to whoever they're interviewing, you know, TMZ and all of these third-party media outlets, they don't show the reverence that you see the mainstream reporters use. They just go after it. They see a story like that, especially
And TMZ is now one of the
if it's sorted
highest rated
like this one. They're going to go out and they're going to show the photos. They're going to go talk to the woman that was tweeting. They're going to go talk
And I like that.
and try to canvass everybody that he's tweeting with. Has he ever had anything like this in the past? Have you experienced it? And then they'll get to the bottom of it because they don't care. It's a
don't-
one and done deal for
They are
them.
the rogue, and you know, you're absolutely correct because look at TMZ. People are on to this stuff. They know these relationships. They know this hierarchy, if you will. But look how popular TMZ is. I'm you know, your point is well taken and absolutely correct in that people want that. They want that truth. They want that, you know. That's just
Well, our
call it
whole
what it is.
society is voyeurs. I mean, everybody wants to see what everybody else is doing, and there's a fascination
And then
when
when
there's
they
a
pull down.
celebrity element involved into it, and then political ambition. People love to look into that. I mean, it's sort of a
fascinating.
strange coincidence because your friends. They could care less. They know who you are, but the folks outside of the bubble, all of a sudden they have a fascination, especially if there's any dirt involved. You know, obviously there's an intrigue to that, and that's why TMZ and these other folks, they're willing to explore that because they understand that's what everybody's fascinated with. They're not fascinated with the stories that Jack was talking about. You know, whether the national debt is going to be increased or the debt ceiling, all
But
of
if
those
you wanted
issues,
to go
because
there-
there's no there's no
not sexy.
it's not sexy
I don't
and
know. I
there's
think
not
as
a lot of
reporter-
stimuli
I think
there.
if a reporter was consistently confronting and unrelenting on those issues, the audience, who, after all, is sitting there watching a news broadcast, and therefore has some interest in the news and current events,
Right.
would appreciate that. I think one of the ways we believe that journalists on television have broken faith with us is too much of that insider relationship. They
Oh.
value too much their access to ever risk it by actually doing their job.
And that's why fresh reporters, I mean, that is what you're supposed to do. When you do this job, you're supposed to ask those tough questions. You're supposed to be an advocate for those who cannot get access. You're supposed to be that voice that holds people accountable and asks the tough questions. And this has happened to me. I'm going to be brutally honest. You're human, and you develop these relationships with the people that you're covering. And, you know, to some degree, you keep your distance. But there is this human factor, and
Because they're helping you do your job.
you know,
you're kind of
and
helping
they'll
them
do
do
something
theirs.
nice to you. You know, like today, for
Right.
example, we were at the funeral preps, and the Bexar County Sheriff's Office is going around giving all the reporters and photographers water and donuts. And, you know, and they're saying thank you for being here. You said, so that's a relationship you're building. But then tomorrow, what if the sergeant who gave me a donut is in trouble for fraud or, you know, some sort of oppression, indicted for oppression or something, you know? That's a fine line you're dealing with. And
So
it
that's
takes
your price, a donut?
Good, well, they told
And
me they were
water, and
diet
water.
Depends on the
donuts.
time of day.
Donut and
Diet
water.
I'd
donuts.
go for a donut at a
But
certain time of day too, Sylvia.
I understand what you're talking about, and I think there does have to be a lot more. And we see that the people want this because of shows like The Daily Show, where Jon Stewart gets away with asking really tough questions. Like I say gets away, that's probably a misphrase, but we see TMZ, and they're very popular because they really do go to the jugular, right? They go straight to it. and everybody else is more civil and polite, and they kind of tiptoe. And I think you're right. People, it's not as cool. It's not as real.
All right. Eugene Robinson of the Washington Post today says it's pretty much an immutable rule in politics that if they're talking about your underwear, you have a problem.
That's a good statement.
I think you're a lost cause if they've moved on to your underwear. All right, look, we're waiting, as we mentioned earlier, for the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans to rule on the valedictorian case, Medina Valley High School. We talked to the attorney for the Liberty Foundation this morning, Liberty Institute rather. They're the foundation who are representing on a pro bono basis the school district and this valedictorian. Nico, you're the lawyer in the room. Do you think that they're going to be able to lead a prayer or say a prayer at that ceremony tomorrow?
You know, I read the articles, and Greg Abbott is citing case law. It's going to all be about precedents and case law and the Constitution, and the Fifth Circuit's going to make a ruling on that. I know Greg Abbott has filed an amicus brief, which is like a friend to the court type deal. It just means it's an opinion. They're trying to influence the Fifth Circuit on to vote their way or to make a ruling their way. I mean, I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm a Christian, and I don't apologize for it, so this is personal for me. I mean, when I speak at an invocation, when I speak at a public event, I do the prayer, and I thank God, and I speak in Jesus' name. That's what I do personally. That's me. But looking at it objectively, it would almost be like if someone had a function and wanted to pray to Muhammad or Buddha. I mean, would the Christians be offended? And would Christians say, look, you can't do that to me? I mean, you have to look at it objectively. Subjectively, I'm all for it. I mean, I would pray the whole ceremony, but I mean, I'm looking at it objectively. So if Judge Beery made a ruling that he felt, comported with the Constitution, Greg Abbott feels like that there's some case law and other legal authority, and he cites the fact that Congress prays at the end of their sessions, which is tradition. It's not backed up by the Constitution per se. It's more tradition. There's a lot of stuff traditionally, like that. So we'll see. I'm curious. I'm fascinated by this.
But as it stands, they do, I believe, face the superintendent could face charges if something does go down.
Charges what? Not criminal charges.
Not criminal
civil.
charges.
Well, I was saying on the air this
Some sort
week, and I'm no expert, but what if you just said the prayer anyway? All right, Judge Beery, what's Judge Beery or any of these people going to do? What are they going to do? Are they going to make an international case out of this where they throw somebody in jail? Does the United States of America want that black eye that we have somebody in jail for praying?
No.
I don't think they do.
That's not the fight to take up, and that's why anybody in Congress, they don't make a big deal about it, because they're elected officials.
I think I'm glad they're going through the appeals process and all that, but if I was those people, I would just go ahead and say the prayer.
Absolutely. And
Well,
what are they
see,
gonna
but it's
do,
a
tackle
difference. It's a difference where they put it on their program, benediction or invocation. They're saying the school can't mount this effort. I mean, if I was the valedictorian, I wouldn't have even made an issue about it legally. I would have just spoken in Jesus' name. I would have just made.
They're not going to arrest you on the platform.
What are they going to do? I mean,
That's
I
what
would
I'm
have just
saying.
done it, and she's not violating anything because she has the First Amendment right. Citing the Establishment Clause.
But see, this goes to what you were
speech.
saying, Nico. You were saying, what if we're in the audience, we're Christians, and we're in the audience, and somebody prays to some other god?
Right.
Well, number one, Christians don't freak out and fly off the handle because of that. As apparently some atheists and agnostics do. But number two, it seems to me that what this is really about is whether or not these kinds of decisions can be made and brought about locally. I mean, this is a town that is Catholic and Christian. This is their tradition. This isn't something new that's being introduced or tried out for the first time. And so I think these rulings from these judges are bluster.
How-
Well, wait a
how
second.
offended-
You said something that was really important. Christians in this country have been afforded the majority.
They are the majority.
Of opinion and of practice. And from what I understand, in talking, we interviewed a family who wanted to pray, but the father of the student said something that I thought was very appropriate, which was tolerance.